Hello, Changemaker.
Welcome to the Innovation Room,
A place for business leaders,
change agents, and change champions.
anyone who wants to know where digital transformation is taking us,
A place that sparks ideas.
and explores what's really possible with software and technology.
Ready?
Let's see what's happening.
When new disruption threatens the very existence of your business, what do? Are you ready to act? Are you prepared to pivot or even totally transform? Your first line of defense is to know what is next and how fast you can get there. Today, my guest in the Innovation Room is a contrarian by nature, a very commercial, outside-the-box thinker with 45 years of experience in conceiving innovative solutions. Robert Baldock is Managing Director of Clustre, the innovation brokers who help major companies solve their most complex problems with certainty and speed. On today's podcast, he shares why solving complex problems at a speed are so important in the uncertain and transitional phase that the businesses have entered, the new era of generative AI. I am Somayeh, CEO of Geeks. Please join me in the Innovation Room with Robert Baldock to explore the drivers of disruption. Hi, Robert. Thank you so much for joining me in the Innovation Room. Why don't we start with a short introduction about you and your background and anything interesting about you that you would like to share?
So I run a small organization called Clustre. We are self-styled innovation brokers. And what that means is we work with large companies who have complex problems or great opportunities. And we try to help them solve those problems quickly and with certainty. Me, I'm a contrarian. If you say go left, I'll go right. And I'm also an out-of-the-box thinker, which you have to be in the innovation space if you are going to solve problems far more quickly than otherwise would be expected.
Cool. I feel so lucky you just answered my question. I need to be careful about what I ask, not to trigger you wanting to not answer the question.
I will answer every question.
Let's start with our standard question of who would you like to bring to the Innovation Room if you're doing some innovation work, dead or alive, fiction or.
Well, I hope the room is big enough because I've got three people.
Yes, you can. You can have more than one.
It's Leonardo da Vinci,
Cool.
Alan Turing, and Albert Einstein.
Okay.
Probably
Let us know why.
Three most intelligent men who've ever lived on this planet. You know, Leonardo da Vinci, a polymath. You know, he conceived aircraft and helicopters and tanks. Hundreds of years before they became possible. Albert Einstein left me with a quote, which I use all the time, which is, if you give me 60 minutes to solve a problem, I'll spend 55 minutes analyzing it to make sure I've understood the problem correctly. And to Alan Turing, I'd like to apologize on behalf of the world for the way he was treated, because if he'd lived longer, just imagine what that man could have achieved. You know, perhaps the conceiver, the inventor of artificial intelligence. Have those three people in a room with me, we'll solve all the problems on the planet.
Or you would just kill each other. You never know.
Well, there'll be a fight to get a word in, I think.
Brilliant. So this episode is part of the spring series of the Innovation Room, where we focus on strategy, and when the ground beneath you is shifting all the time, how do you make a strategy that is going to help you move forward, thrive in the chaotic space? So how would you see, with the work you do and your experience and the clients you work with, how would you categorize the strategy, the perfect strategy, if there is a word called perfect, if you can create a perfect strategy? What would be the suitable strategy for when the rate of the change is so fast, and it is faster than ever because of the advancement of the technology, as well as the whole world is changing? There are other factors that is making it to change faster. So what would be the perfect strategy look like from your opinion?
So I think there's two answers to this. Firstly, you've got to become very agile. You know, compare a cargo ship with a speedboat. It takes a cargo ship a mile to stop, right? A speedboat can spin on a sixpence. And most large companies are like cargo ships. It take a long time to decide, a long time to act, and a long time for that action to be implemented. One strategy is you better make yourself as nimble as you can, as responsive as you can. And we know you can because when we were told to go into lockdown, right, we got very little notice about it. So we had to go from a situation where it was 5 days a week in the office to 0 days a week in the office. No one had anticipated that ever happening, ever. But we did it, right? So, when the situation dictates and demands, we respond, but it takes a crisis. Right? And a very famous British industrialist used to say, if things are going too smoothly, I create a crisis, because that's the only way to affect change in someone that thinks the world is safe and it never is. So one strategy is do whatever you can from here on in to become more decisive, more responsive, more agile in decision making. So my second recommendation is to do a SWOT analysis of your business. S standing for strengths, W for weaknesses, O for opportunities, T for threats. And this is an exercise where you get a lot of people together and you basically list what you think your strengths are, list where you think you're weak, look at opportunities that you could potentially pursue to develop and grow your business, and then look at the potential threats to your business. And when you've done that, the second stage is look at all your strengths and see how you can further exploit them. Look at all your weaknesses and see what you can do to negate them or reduce them. Look at the future opportunities and decide which, if any of them, you should pursue, how and when. And lastly, and this is, I guess, where we'll get to in a minute, which is look at the threats to your business, both known and unknown, and decide what they could potentially do to you and what would be an early indication of something heading your way. A tsunami type effect. Indeed, you might even want to go one step further and go through a full scenario planning exercise. This is something the military does and other major companies do on a very regular basis, because the only way to really get yourself ready for something that might hit you is to try as best you can to pre-anticipate it.
So that nicely takes us to what's happening to the world now with the new AI advancement and all the some people say all the hype. Some people, like I'd be one of them. We don't think it's a fantasy or it's like it will go away. It's a new era. It's a new advancement to the technology that it's like we've passed the turning point. There is a big advancement. How big it is, what's the impact, how it's going to hit different parts of the society, the way we live, the way we work, what's going to happen to the jobs, how long until we feel the impact. These are the questions that normally is being discussed in different business environments. So what are your views about the generative AIs and what's happening to the world?
How long have I got?
Well, let's see how much I can stay quiet and not interrupt.
Well, let me first, if I may, take advantage of this question by tackling some of the misnomers. I was with a CIO the other day and I said AI to him and he said, that's machine learning. We don't have good data. It is a common misconception that AI only equals machine learning. Machine learning is one form of AI and it basically needs to ingest a large amount of data. It doesn't have to be all good data. So let me basically try to take advantage of this question to sort of give people a better, perhaps, understanding of the scope of AI, which, by the way, is not a new tech. I developed an AI app 25 years ago, but there were obstacles in those becoming more widely used at that point in time. So you can generally divide AI into three categories. Narrow AI, which is AI that helps you solve a particular problem. Like, has this X-ray if I look at this X-ray, are there signs of cancer on this X-ray? That's an example of a narrow implementation of AI. Then and that's where we're at the moment. That's our current position. Then there's general AI, which is AI that can solve any problem. We're not there. Who knows if we'll get there? And then there's the last thing that none of us want to see, which is a super intelligence, which is AI outperforming humans. Now, ChatGPT and the other large language models are probably somewhere in between, because ChatGPT isn't just about solving one problem. In fact, I don't think any of us have the full extent yet or full understanding of what ChatGPT and other large language models can be used for. I think we've got the tip of that very iceberg. But to your point about the speed, I guess a lot of us sort of got slightly surprised when ChatGPT 3 was announced. Then a few weeks later, they announced ChatGPT 4, and I understand that ChatGPT 5 has already been written. So this is a wave that's coming at us quickly. You can't say, stop, we need to figure it through. It's on us. It's rolling forward. And it prompted me the other day to write an article entitled, Is ChatGPT the New Steam Engine? Because when the steam engine came along, it basically made a lot of people redundant, particularly people working in the first instance in cotton factories that were manually pushing loom machines. But when you look at all of the things that the steam engine did, it created a vast new set of ways of making things, of getting from A to B, creating jobs and new opportunities. So I put things like ChatGPT into the same category as the steam engine. It will have both negative effects and positive effects. When the steam engine was created, they only saw a single application for it. But look at what it then went on to. And it's interesting today that most electricity is still generated by steam, by the way.
Yeah. The slight difference, or the big difference rather, is how technologies like ChatGPT, which are transformative technologies, they are so, what they do is so big that will transform the way we work and live. They've never been so easily available and to the hands of millions of users within days. That's where I think it makes the scale of the tsunami completely, or the pace at which it's going to hit us potentially different, because it would take some time to create more steam engines and make them available throughout the world and get everybody trained up.
They were expensive and they were all custom made.
The cost of it is a whole different story. Absolutely. Like the ChatGPT, you can work with it like for free. It's available instantly for millions of users, and it's so interesting, stimulating, at the same time slightly scary to see how different people use it. And everybody, every day you go on LinkedIn and there is a new way of somebody has decided to use it in a different way, solving a different problem, which is fascinating. I don't know how many years it took for the steam engine to be found as a solution to different problems, rather than the single application it was probably intended to begin with. But we can see how a technology like ChatGPT is being used in many different ways by many different people, creating many different types of application of it. And then the craziness of it being linked to another technology and another AI, and then the mixture of them and the combination of them, what the world is going to look like.
If I knew that, I'd be a very wealthy man, because I'd be betting on all sorts of things. You're absolutely right. And there's a chart I often use to show the pace of technology, which looks at various technologies and how long it took them to get to 50 million users. Like when a phone was first shown to the mayor of New York, he said, I can eventually see one of these in every city. But I think there was a computer game that hit 50 million users in about 50 minutes. Now, this ChatGPT blows even that away. Because if you go into ChatGPT right now and try to use the free of charge version, quite often you'll get locked out because it's got no capacity because of just the sheer number of people using it. And so this is a tidal wave, and it's going to knock some people for six, and some people are going to surf it, and they'll go, wee, and this is fun, and they're going to master it. And honestly, the best, I've been on calls like this in the last few days to multiple people, the vast majority of which hadn't even played with it yet. Honestly, if you're not playing is perhaps the wrong word. If you're not looking at this and seeing how it might be applied positively or negatively to your business, you're going to get knocked over.
I used to before this. I used to when I spoke with in events and conferences, I used to say, if you're not a technology, if you have not changed your business to be a technology business, or technology first business, in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to be extinct. You're going to be taken over by, somebody who would find a digital first way of doing what you're doing, and then they would take over. with this, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Is it going to be like if somebody today is not looking into how this will impact their business, doesn't do the SWOT analysis, doesn't have a strategy that is spry enough, agile enough to be able to shapeshift and change the business. I don't know how long do they have. Would you be able to say?
No, but it's not long. Let's take the legal profession. You know, a good part of what
they're my favorite. I call them dinosaurs, but
well, they are. You know, in one sense, they are. They charge you a fortune to read things, and either as part of, you know, due diligence or contract review, or to give you an opinion. Right now, they should view, in a positive sense, ChatGPT as a tool that might save them some time and allow them to zoom in on or focus on the bits that need to be read. I could never be a lawyer reading through contracts. It does my head in, right? But thank God there are people that have done that in the past and like doing it and can do it. But even then they get tired, right? And they can miss things. And then what if you're not looking at something you should be looking at? So they should be seeing, in one sense, ChatGPT a tool that can be used to save them time and get them to hone in on the key points. On the other hand, what if you're a company wondering how you might cut your legal costs? And if you look at it's a small analogy, but basically, if you look at what's happened to the headhunting industry, a lot of companies have recruited their own headhunters and put them on their payroll in order to spend less money with the external headhunters finding candidates. And so they get the same result for a lot less money. And so there is both an opportunity and a threat that some work that you might do, might make a lot of money off historically, that's going to go. And therefore, you should be focused on value-added services, exploiting this technology and finding out a way of doing more with it. So right now, for example, one of the companies we recommend have an AI tool. And what they did was they sat down with the partners of a accounting firm, and they basically said, we'd like to show you how powerful this tool is by trying to capture some of your knowledge and some of your experience as it relates to answering a certain type of question. And the question they zoomed in on was, am I eligible for R&D tax credits? And sometimes that would have to go in front of a partner who would charge you a fortune and then give you an answer. They codified those partners' experience and then put this tool free of charge on their website. And now 95% of the cases can get a free of charge answer. And an explanation as to why the answer was the answer that was given. Then they are then giving the more complicated cases to the partners who could then get stuck into them. That has freed up time of the partners, allowing them to do more other things. So that is a positive example of how you can use AI. Actually, in this case, it's providing a fantastic service to people that ordinarily have to pay for something. It's marking them out as being ahead of their field and being very sort of, you know, adventurous and innovative, and it's freeing up time, allowing them to apply that time to other instances.
So it's I think we agree it will break some barriers, but also make some things and some works that used to be done redundant. What are the examples of the businesses that you think they if they change, or if they change their strategy, they have a chance of changing to a different business? Do you think it applies to every business, or some businesses are gonna be unlucky?
I'm afraid
Short
so.
answer.
Particularly those where there's a lot of time and money spent on research. Now, there's a limitation on these large language models, and that is, you know, what is the cutoff date for the data set? But then you can use the engine on your own data sets, so that overcomes that particular issue. So and right now you've probably seen people showing how ChatGPT can use to generate code. So low-level programming or basic programming, that's going to be automated. So what you have to do is you have to move up this stack, right? And it's never going to take away, I don't think, the works of creative geniuses. I get stopped a lot by parents who, when they know what I do, they say, in what direction should I point my kids? I give them two answers: AI and a creative industry. Now, some will say AI will even blend into the creative industry. And quite possibly, but not to the full extent that I think some people might suggest. So I mean, there are two sort of safe zones, if you like, and there are unsafe zones. If you're doing low tasks, if you like, or simple tasks, they're going to be automated.
And what would be your advice to those kind of businesses? Because we don't want to, like, we are a bunch of optimists, right? We don't want to leave anybody listening to the podcast thinking, oh, my life is just
Oh no, of course not.
destroyed.
I'm the eternal optimist. I'm like the knight in one of the Monty Python films who, even having had his arms and leg cut off, who basically says, "Come back, you cowards! I can still fight." So that's me. So look, it's always about a couple of things to make sure that you are delivering something distinctive. You asked me about strategy earlier. I once had a drink in a bar with a Chicago professor of strategy, and he said, "I'll never admit that I told you this, but basically, we do all these long strategy courses for nothing because there are only two strategies. You either do something different or you do something better." He said, "That's it. End of strategy course." And so you've got to be constantly focused. This comes back to the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Constantly focused on how do I do better what I'm doing today, or how do I do different, right? And how do I use technology, all of the technologies? So look at how you do things differently, how you do things better, and or look at the technologies out there, look at how you might exploit them, and basically, I hesitate in saying this, drop everything and focus on those two things. You can't drop everything because you've got a business to run. So you've got to separate business from usual from business unusual. And you need a business unusual team right now.
It's from your experience, how realistic is it? How many businesses have you seen, or how many organizations have you worked with that they were able to keep their strategy super agile and be able to face these disruptions, these massive disruptions?
So I think the best example, and it's a large company, of course, and it is a tech company, is Microsoft. There have been several points in Microsoft's career where it could have gone under. When the internet came along, they hadn't seen it or thought about the consequences or the opportunities. And they were very slow to react. And they lost traction. They lost their way. But boy, did they, bounce back with a bang. And then more recently, they saw OpenAI and they bought a big chunk of it, which is ironic because Elon Musk set up OpenAI to protect us.
Yeah.
And someone having a monopolistic control over such a powerful piece of technology. And now they've basically are substantial owners of ChatGPT. And I don't know if you've heard of Copilot, but they're about to launch something that's going to change everybody's lives that basically uses a computer. So I have to hand it to Microsoft.
They are very interesting because nobody who hears Microsoft as a business name, and they would think agility and being able to change, but I agree with you. They have changed. They have reinvented themselves a few times, and many times they came from behind, like being cloud platforms is one example. They completely missed the mark, and then they had to catch up. Given the client base that they have and the dominance in the business space that they had, they were able to come back up from that. But I don't think anybody. Yeah, I don't think anybody saw Microsoft being at the front running of the AI. We probably would have thought of Google more than Microsoft. We probably would have thought of Elon Musk because he was talking about it, and the things he's doing within the Tesla environment, and the things that they are creating
rocket
there.
Elon Musk designed a rocket that lands itself on a platform floating on the sea. NASA still hasn't worked out how to do that after all these years.
Yeah.
So I think
so what happened?
I think part of the answer is tech. These are tech company examples, right? They're led by tech leaders, and therefore they can see the tech and exploit the tech. But if you're a retail banker, you're not a tech leader. So I think it helps to have a tech leader at the heart of your business, at the head of your business, if you want to. We're in such a tech-led world right now.
That is true, but I'm slightly biased because I'm a technologist, and I think every board needs to have a few technologists in it to be able to see the
But do you know how
opportunities.
many do?
And they not a lot.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
But then again, board, they meet once every so often. They sit there. They have to mind out what they say, not to upset the chief executive and the chairman. I don't think that's the right mechanism. When I was with this firm, I started my professional career with, called Accent, they had a contract to train up the CIO for a large bank, and this bank made it a principle that the CIO should never be an IT person, and therefore they would appoint a senior banker that was on the up and up. And we would teach that person about technology, because their argument was, we're not utilizing technology because we're not thinking about it in a business sense. Let's put a business person on top of technology. Let's surround them with technology experts, and that helped them through a large period of time. Maybe they should change their tune now, which is to put a technology person in charge of the bank rather than the business person in charge of technology.
No, I do agree. Even with the clients we work with, we do encourage. We try. One of the things we do is to try to engage with their teams to increase their understanding of technology, because we want them to be the ones who identify the opportunity and the problems that has a potential for tech to impact, and then come to us and say, this is the opportunity, this is the problem we think technology should be able to solve. What do you think? Because they can't never be like, not everybody in the business can understand everything about technology. So it's like that, but they need to understand, they need to have that. It's like a sixth sense of like, this look like a problem that technology should be able to solve, or this look like an opportunity that technology should be able to do something about.
My favorite ever story about where business and technology can collide is around the invention of the cash machine, the automated teller machine. This is a true story. One night in a bar in Dallas, there were two gentlemen getting very drunk. Getting very drunk because they've each been set mission impossible by their respective bosses. One of those is a bank manager who's been told that tomorrow you need to tell me how you're going to cut costs but improve customer service. And all we can think of is, I have to get rid of some tellers. The other is works for a hardware company, and he's designed this amazing piece of kit that's weatherproof. And he's been told, if you can't come up with an end user application for this by tomorrow morning, we're canning the project. That night, the cash machine was born. And so another way I was going to respond to your observation and comment was, we work with a lot of innovation teams of a lot of big companies. And the clever ones have divided their innovation teams into two: here and now, the future. And they are horizon scanners. They're looking at things, trying to imagine what the impact or the opportunity might be. The first team are dealing with today's problems and opportunities. And I think that's a very sensible thing to do, to split it into two that way.
It's interesting. I was talking to another guest, Brant Cooper, a couple of months ago, I think, and he works with innovation labs of large organizations, and his comment was, innovation labs are broken because they're so distant from the core of the business, and people, like the normal people in the business, see them as like these fancy people sitting somewhere trying to create something different, and they are not they don't understand what are the day-to-day problems or opportunities that exist in the business because they are distant. So his view was, they need to turn into center of excellence. They need to engage a lot more. They need to collaborate a lot more, and they need to really find problems or opportunities from the business to go and solve with innovation. What are your views? Because you do work with.
I have very provocative views on this, and they probably are in a call with the other person you just mentioned. The more innovation labs you have, the less you're going to innovate. The more layers between the chief executive and the head of innovation, the less you're going to innovate. And another one of my stories was, I met the newly appointed head of innovation for a big bank. he sat down to me and said, "How do you suggest I get going?" And I said, "Go and interview all the business unit heads and ask them what keeps them awake at night. And from that, you'll have a problem list, but it's going to be too big for you to undertake. So look at ones that you can solve and perhaps quickly and get some, generate some enthusiasm. Success breeds success." Good idea. So he went and did that, showed me his list. We talked about prioritization. Many months later, I went to see him. I said, "How's it going?" "We've got an innovation lab now in Tel Aviv, in Berlin, in London, in San Francisco, and Tokyo." And was my answer. Many, many months later, he said, "I'm going to commission you to do a report on our progress." And I said, I'll write my assessment now, and I'm not going to charge you a penny." And I wrote on a piece of paper, "You failed." And I said, "You probably don't want me to submit that to your management." Needless to say, they've closed all those innovation labs. And I totally agree. They've got carried away with themselves. It's around a small group of people, a diverse group of people, using the best minds internally and externally, and focus them on things that are going to make a difference to the business.
So with that in mind, what would be your word of wisdom for businesses, specifically in the mid-market? I know you work with some large organizations, but consider the mid-market as well. And what would be your piece of advice for how they can evaluate or reevaluate their strategies in light of the recent advancements of AI and the using your words, the tsunami that is on the way to come, how they can prepare, how they can.
So when you send me the list of questions, you asked for one word, and I was really struggling with this, but I've got 2 one words.
Go on.
Anticipate, experiment. They're my 2 one words. Roll up your sleeves right now. Create this business unusual team.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Robert, for joining me in the Innovation Room. Lovely to talk to you and hearing your experience and your views. As you said in the beginning, how long do I have to talk about this? This is a topic that I think I struggle to keep the podcast to a reasonable length. But I look forward to speaking with you maybe in a few months and see what has happened and how far the tsunami is. In a few months.
We're going to see things move faster than we've ever seen before. I mean, think about the other game changer technologies, right? The internet, the mobile phone. They still took a while to get established. This one, it's a big wave.
Yes. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us in the Innovation Room.
We hope it sparks some ideas.
Want to learn more about what we do?
Maybe you could even be our next guest.
And spark some ideas yourself.
Find us at Geeks Limited.
And join us again soon.
Because real change never stops.